welcome to The Story. I'm Tim Gordon in for Blair Best tonight. There's a new push to try and make a fundamental change in Oregon's elections process. We're talking about opening up primary elections to all voters, so it's not just the Ds voting for the Ds and the Rs voting for the Rs. And the effort has an unlikely champion this time around. It's our big story tonight.
I have run as the standard bearer for the Democratic Party. I am a registered Democrat. I am a proud Democrat, but I know when the system needs to change.
Ted Kulongoski is a former two-term governor of Oregon from 2003 to 2011. Before that, starting in the 1970s, he served in both houses of the state legislature, was insurance commissioner, then Oregon Attorney General, and Kulongoski sat as a justice on the state Supreme Court. So he's got a lot of experience. Now he's chief petitioner of two initiatives, 55 and 56, that would amend the state constitution to end partisan primaries, opening up the primary election process to all voters. It would install a top two system to earn a spot in general elections, no matter party affiliation or lack thereof.
All of the non-affiliated voters and the independent voters are paying taxes to the state to run the state election. So their taxes are funding these elections, but we're not allowing them to vote. And I think that's wrong. And I don't think it's fair. And I think the public is probably going to come to the same conclusion I do. Now is the time to open up the primary system.
So let's talk about those non-affiliated voters, because they are now a big part of Oregon's electorate. In fact, the latest data from Oregon's Elections Division shows they're now the biggest, with more non-affiliated voters on the rolls than Republicans or Democrats. By the numbers, Oregon has over 729,000 registered Republicans and more than 987,000 registered Democrats, compared to 1.1 million non-affiliated voters, 37% of Oregon voters avoiding a party label. Throw in minor parties like independents and libertarians, and you're up to 44% of Oregonians getting no say in primary elections.
They do not get to vote. In 21 of the 36 counties in Oregon, the non-affiliated voters outnumber the Republicans and the Democrats. In 5 of the 6 congressional districts, the non-affiliated voters outnumber the Republicans and the Democrats. And I actually don't think Oregon's getting everything it should from its citizenry if you don't allow them to vote.
That statement coming from a man who for decades arguably did more than anyone to solidify Democrats' control of Oregon politics. Early on in his career, Kulongoski wrote the legislation that succeeded in giving public employees the right to unionize, creating what you could call a huge special interest group that votes blue. Opening up primaries is not something party loyalists generally support, and Kulongoski says he's getting calls. I mean, you were a man who was a part of the machine, the political machine, and so you know full well it's hard to change the machine. The machine doesn't want to change.
It is. It's unfortunately, it's about power, control. It is about doing it our way being the politician's way rather than the public's way. And I think that's what the frustration is with the citizens today.
Times have changed for sure. The last measure going for open primaries in Oregon was in 2014, and it failed miserably when the percentage of non-affiliated voters in the state was just 24%. By the way, the Oregon motor voter provision plays a big part in driving up that percentage to where it is today, according to Kulongoski.
That when you get your license, you can register. So you've got a lot of people registering their cars and getting their license. They are registering non-affiliated, but in that group of non-affiliated are a lot of currently registered Republicans and Democrats who are opting out of being in the two major parties and are registering as non-affiliated.
So the writing is on the wall, and the former leader of Democrats at 85 years old is sharply focused, working with a Republican and an independent party leader to collect enough signatures to get initiatives 55 and 56 on the ballot next November. It may not be what the major parties want, but Kulongoski thinks voters want change.
They're unhappy with their government. They're unhappy with their party. And I think that having more people involved in the process. Having the two major parties have to ask that 1.3 million people, what's your opinion in this primary election? And reach out to them. I think the governmental process will be better for one major reason. It will moderate the system. Instead of extremes, I'm in the search for the middle.
Now, Kulongoski told me he does not expect that the state legislature is ready for this type of change to the primaries. He believes they wouldn't have the numbers to approve a bill to make it happen. And that's why this is going through the initiative process of gathering signatures to try and get it on the midterm election ballot next year. So what do you think of this idea? Do you support open primaries, allowing all voters to weigh in on final candidates from each party? Why or why not? Email the story at kgw.com or call and leave a voicemail, 503-226-5090. Another big story tonight, the city of Portland has named the 3 finalists that are vying for the city administrator job. The person that runs the day-to-day operations of the Rose City, manages the $8.6 billion budget, and implements policies adopted by council. The current city administrator, Mike Jordan, is retiring after shepherding the city through the first year of Portland's new form of government. Whoever is chosen to replace him is expected to start working in January. Now, here are those finalists chosen among nearly 100 people who applied. On the left, Maurice Henderson, the second, former chief of staff to Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler. In the middle, Raymond Lee, the third, current city manager of Greeley, Colorado. And on the right, Valerie Washington, current assistant city administrator of Fort Worth, Texas. All 3 are in town this week to interview with Mayor Keith Wilson, city councilors, and union leaders. Mayor Wilson will select who he wants in the role, and that person will need to be confirmed by city council before anything becomes official. Let's take a minute to learn more about these finalists. First, again, Maurice Henderson there. He's the VP of an infrastructure design firm. Before that, he was a senior advisor at the U.S. Department of Transportation under the Biden administration. And prior to that gig, he worked in a senior role with Bird, the electric scooter and bike company. But his ties to Portland stretch back to Chief Operating Officer of TriMet, Chief of Staff to former Mayor Ted Wheeler, and a leadership role at PBOT. Next, Raymond Lee. He's been the city manager of Greeley, Colorado since 2022. That city's budget is just under $600 million, whereas Portland's, as I mentioned earlier, is $8.6 billion. Before his time in Colorado, Lee was the director of public works in Amarillo, Texas, and prior to that served in leadership positions in the city of Dallas, Texas. And finally, Valerie Washington. She spent the past decade as the assistant city manager of Fort Worth, Texas. That's a city whose budget topped $3 billion this fiscal year. Before her time in Texas, Washington worked for various public safety departments in the city of Indianapolis, Indiana. So there are your 3 finalists for Portland's next city administrator. Of course, that was just a brief overview of their experience. But if you were in Mayor Wilson's seat, who would you choose? All right. If something stands out to you, share it with us and explain why. Email the story at kgw.com or call and leave the voicemail, 503-226-5090. Well, President Trump has rolled back some tariffs on specific food products in an attempt to bring down prices in grocery stores. Tariffs have now been rolled back on more than 200 food items, including coffee, bananas, beef, avocados, and tea, after an executive order the president signed on Friday. Average grocery prices were 2.7% higher in September compared to the same time last year. Economists say consumers won't really feel the effects of the rollback for weeks, if not longer.
So that's not something that kind of you roll back a tariff and then tomorrow prices are changing, because it does take some time to flow through the ecosystem.
The Trump administration says the president's executive order does not mean he's giving up on tariffs as economic drivers. But small business owners in Portland, we heard from today, say they're not making any changes just yet. One of the owners of a relatively new coffee shop in Southwest Portland says this first year in business has been a nightmare. She's had to pass on higher prices to her customers to deal with those tariffs. And as Libby Dowsett reports, this latest about-face on tariffs has her head spinning.
We'll believe it when we see it.
Bold Coffee and Books co-owner Ali Shaw says in their first year of business in Southwest Portland, they've seen their wholesale coffee costs soar nearly 9% since the first of the year. She says the price of milk and other store items have also shot up 5% since August.
For these prices to be going up and down, it's been a real challenge to try and find where our foothold is.
She says they raise prices to make sure they don't have to shut down.
Gut punch. You don't want to have to do that. You don't want to have to pinch your community when you're also feeling pinched. So we put it off as long as we possibly could.
Customers say a stop into Starbucks or a restaurant with kids will cost you.
Oh, at $20 at least every time. We actually went out to breakfast the other morning and it was close to $200 for my husband and I and 4 kids.
Economists say prices have certainly gone up.
I went to the store the other day and I cannot believe how expensive beef is. So we are now a beef-free house for a while.
Economic consultant Eric Fruits says even though tariffs may be rolled back soon, customers are still experiencing the initial tariffs kick in.
It takes a while for those things to kick in, and it takes time for people to register those price increases.
Providor Fine Foods says news of the tariff rollbacks won't mean any immediate changes.
Even if it rolls back, I don't know if our distributors are going to be able to roll it back.
Co-owner Kay Wellman says invoices for fruit, meat, tea, and international items are constantly changing.
So many of these things have been bought months and months ago, and so they're not going to change the prices from what they sold it to us months and months ago.
Economists say brace for a shorter holiday shopping season and the higher prices at least through this year.
We're in this very strange spot right now in terms of our economy, and I think a lot of it has to do with the uncertainty about what the future holds.
Libby Dowsett, KGW News.
Okay, coming up next on The Story, could hundreds of National Guard members' time here in Oregon be coming to an end? A new order from the Pentagon signals troops initially summoned to protect Portland's ice facility could be heading home just in time for the holidays. What we know about the move when The Story returns. Welcome back. The National Guard footprint here in Oregon will soon be much smaller. All 200 Guard members from California are going home, and half of the 200 Oregon Guard members are also demobilizing. That's according to an official with the Department of Defense. Governor Tina Kotek renewing her call today for all National Guard troops sent to Oregon to be demobilized. Although troops have not hit the streets here, they've been stationed at 2 local military bases, one on the North Coast and the other in Happy Valley in Clackamas County. Kotek says Oregon troops have been away from their families for 50 days for what she calls an unnecessary deployment. U.S. Northern Command posted about the demobilization on their X page Friday night that the Department of Defense will be, quote, shifting and or right-sizing our Title X footprint in Portland, Los Angeles, and Chicago. It's kind of official talk there, but the Defense Department still can't deploy the remaining Oregon troops due to a federal judge's order earlier this month, permanently barring troops from being sent to the South Portland ICE facility. Over the weekend, the Trump administration did ask the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals to overturn that order. The administration argues the deployment is within President Donald Trump's authority and is necessary to protect the Portland ICE facility. Federalized Oregon Guard members are set to return to state control on Friday. Meanwhile, Portland police reported 0 arrests over the weekend at the ICE facility. Since June, PPB says they've arrested 67 people there amid those protests. Well, over the weekend, the FAA lifted restrictions on flights that it imposed during the government shutdown, which impacted PDX. Airlines were allowed to resume normal flight schedules this morning. But the Air Traffic Controllers Union says it could take months for air travel to return to normal. Stephanie Domerat talked with the regional director of that union for Straight Talk, who said air traffic controllers were already at critical staffing before the shutdown. And during the 43-day stalemate in D.C., many workers were forced to take other jobs just to pay their bills. And there's concern some will not return.
The impacts of the government shutdown are really unknown at this point. It's going to take a few months until our pay and we're made whole and all of those issues are rectified, as well as what does that look like for trainees that were coming into this profession.
Well, we will see, but during the shutdown, many controllers in the Northwest did take early retirement, and new controller training stopped, further adding to the critical staffing levels. You can watch the full interview on Straight Talk tonight at 7 o'clock. That's right after the story. And if that doesn't work for you, watch anytime on our free TV app, KGW+. All right, let's bring in Chief Meteorologist Matt Savino now. And Matt, what do people need to know for the rest of the week? I know it's only Monday, but we need to know.
Absolutely, and it's going to be a pretty good week. I mean, we have a couple of times when we'd see a little bit of rain, but nothing major. Look at the mountain today. It tried to come out. It really did. But the clouds said, yeah, no, not going to happen. So they hung in there. Timberline right now, 32 degrees. First time it's been down to freezing since last week. So if you're thinking the rain we got this weekend added up some mountain snow, it didn't. It was raining up there. The snow level has finally dropped on down now. Salem looks good. There's the capital. We're sitting at 49 degrees with a mix of clouds and clear out there. The winds are light, and with that, fog is likely in the morning or at least some low cloud. It'll break up as we go through the day, and there may be a sprinkle or two in Portland. Sunset now for tomorrow at 4:36 as the days, of course, continue to contract. Now, the showers are contracting too. There's hardly anything left. We had a few out around the Dalles. There's a little bit out here, east of Wasco County here in Sherman County. Those are going to wind down too. Notice the showers off the coast of Washington. That's something that I'm keeping an eye on, and that's why I have to at least mention the chance of a sprinkle tomorrow. The rainfall since midnight, 1800s in Portland. Salem picked up about a half an inch, and lesser amounts as you go east of the Cascades. But for the month, we're just a little bit above average, Tim. I mean, just barely. Yeah. 2.95 for the month, which you may think, that seems weird because it feels like it's been a wet November so far.
It does, yeah.
But we had a stretch last week, 5 days in a row with no rain at all. And the rainfall yesterday was only a quarter of an inch. But don't worry, we'll get more. We're still above average since the rainy season began on the 1st of October. Now, this next weather system, a few sprinkles, that's it. It's going to dive south into California like its predecessor. I mean, look at that.
Poor California, huh?
They've just been getting hammered. And when we look at the forecast down there, through the rest of the week and into the weekend, they pick up another inch or so, and that's at the coast. Up in the mountains, we'll probably get 2 to 3 inches of rain. Even normally dry Death Valley will get another inch or so, and the same for Las Vegas. So pretty wild what is happening in the Southwest. Okay, for us, some clouds in the morning, then it breaks up. We end up with a nice afternoon. As we go into Thursday, that's our best chance of getting some rain and some mountain snow, but this is 3 a.m., right? Watch what happens as we go into the daylight hours on Thursday. The clouds begin to clear. Now that weather system on Thursday, again, that dives south into California. We dry out late in the week. Our best chance for anything a little bit more significant will begin Sunday and continue into Monday as we begin Thanksgiving week. So we'll see how that progresses as we get closer in time. Today we hit 55 outside right now. It is 49. And again, the more clearing we get, the more likely we get fog in the morning, but it'll become partly sunny in the afternoon, get up to 49. So cooler, and the morning lows in the 30s, which we have not been doing. Our morning lows have been really quite mild. So a little bit cooler overnight. Thursday, we're back up to 56 with the showers coming and going. And then Friday and Saturday are dry again, Tim. And as we go into the end of the weekend on Sunday, rain in the afternoon or evening hours spilling on over into Monday. And again, that's our best chance to get at least some snow up in the Cascades and up in the ski slopes.
Yeah, but probably not enough to open for Thanksgiving.
It's going to be tough with this forecast. That takes us to the Monday before Thanksgiving. It's really not going to be cold enough to make a bunch of snow. So unless it really begins to set in after Monday, go Tuesday, Wednesday, it'll be close.
We'll get there.
Oh, we absolutely will.
Thanks a lot, Matt.
You bet.
Appreciate it. Up next on the story, the cruise industry, which has a big footprint here in the Northwest, is working to become more sustainable. And one of the world's most advanced cruise ships is docked up in Seattle. We're going to show you around when the story returns. Well, how about this for a Tuesday pick-me-up? The Blazers game tomorrow night will air right here on KGW. With the NBA returning to NBC, we have several games here on Channel 8. We love that. That includes tomorrow night for the game between Portland and the Phoenix Suns. Go Blazers, tip-off set for 8 o'clock. The cruise industry is facing mounting pressure to reduce its environmental impact. And of course, Seattle is a major port where cruise ships come and go. Savannah Welch with our Environment Northwest team takes us aboard one of the world's most advanced and sustainable cruise ships and tells us more about the company's lofty long-term goal.
It may look like any other luxury cruise, but the MS Fridtjof Nansen is built from the ground up for science and sustainability. The hybrid-powered ship docks in Seattle before heading to some of the planet's most remote environments, from Greenland to Antarctica.
This ship really is kind of the next generation of expedition cruising.
Managing Director Steve Smotree says the Nansen is home to the largest science center at sea, where guests and scientists work side by side.
We even donate about 2,000 nights a year to scientists who are doing active research on board. And we really love that because they then interact with our guests. They get to really see the science and the research in action.
Passengers can take part in citizen science projects like tracking whales, observing clouds for NASA's GLOBE program, and collecting water and ice samples in the Arctic and Antarctica.
There is a lot of uncertainty and lack of knowledge, what Antarctica looks like or what happens there. So we're really able to fill that gap by producing all of this data and science and really letting the guests understand where they are and what's going on around them in these extremely remote destinations.
It's a pretty cool feature. It's state of the art.
Captain Frank Martinson commands one of the most advanced ships at sea, designed to handle some of the toughest ice conditions on Earth.
We also have 2 bow thrusters forward, and when we are in ice, we can split them by pushing away the ice.
From his bridge, the captain enjoys what he calls the best office view in the world.
From my window, I truly get the opportunity to wake up in the morning and have a new office view every day.
The Nansen's hybrid system also allows quiet passage in sensitive environments, a game changer in places like Antarctica.
We can sail completely silently at times, which is an amazing experience if you're in Antarctica. It really meets all our objectives and ambitions in terms of sustainability, and it also delivers something incredible for our customers as well.
HX says it's already cut its carbon emissions by 25% and food waste by half. The company's long-term goal, carbon neutrality by 2040.
We see ourselves as having a responsibility as leaders in this space, not just to do it for ourselves and our passengers, but to also work with our competitors and the rest of the industry to push up standards.
From citizen science to cutting-edge hybrid technology, HX is redefining expedition cruising, proving that adventure and sustainability can sail hand in hand.
When you have these really profound moments, places like Antarctica or up in Greenland, where you're seeing nature and wildlife through a very different lens, it really changes your perspective of the planet, your place in the planet.
For Environment Northwest, I'm Savannah Welch.
Wow, they're doing it right. Maybe I will go on a cruise someday. Well, that's the end of our show. Thanks so much for watching. Straight Talk is coming your way next. Blair Best scheduled to be back with you tomorrow night on The Story. But in the meantime, enjoy your Monday night, and I will see you right back here tomorrow on KGW News at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Take care, everybody.